It's time for the Barry-Roubaix, undoubtedly the most famous race in the Michigan Gravel Race Series. Let's talk about it. If you need any convincing that this is the most popular gravel race in Michigan, there's an entire page on Facebook dedicated just to the course conditions, and it has 1,400 members. As usual, I've got the Strava file here of the 36-mile race, which is the one I'll be participating in, and it doesn't look that scary at first glance. 34 miles, 2,000 feet of elevation, these are things that I can handle. Training has been a little light. I've been trying some other sports such as swimming, and then of course life just sort of gets in the way sometimes, doesn't it? Found a problem here. Front derailleur is cracked. Bad news, derailleur broken. Good news, I have a road bike that has the exact same drivetrain on it, and that derailleur is the same, so I should be able to swap it out. More bad news, I've never done that, and the race is in 2 days. Alright, all done. I am so relieved that derailleur works. I was really concerned. I've got the limits set, everything's good, ready to go, but I've burned a couple hours working on that, and this puppy needs to be exercised and I need to be fed, so I'm gonna do that now.
One, go, wave number 5.
This is my first time at the Barry-Roubaix, and there are a ton of people here. I think there are like 2,000 riders at this event. There are over 1,100 people just in the 36-mile race, and I'm starting at the back of wave 5. The reason for this is that I had ridden the course, or at least part of it, the night before, and that sort of intimidated me. I realized that we were going to be going really fast down some descents, and if I were in a big group of people, a big pack, I wasn't totally sure I could be comfortable with that. So I sat up at the back, and it didn't take very long for me to realize that that might have been a mistake. You know, I've done these races before, not this particular race, but I've done gravel racing, so I didn't have a ton of reasons to be nervous. So I start to put out some power, because I do want to catch some people that I can ride with. I don't want to ride at this particular pace the whole time, but I want to ride with people at a similar level. So I end up finding some people that are sort of around my level and that are at the pace that I want to go, particularly this gentleman here who is really hammering up this pavement climb. It's actually a really small rise just before we get onto the dirt, but he's going hard enough he's got to be getting tired. He's really jamming, so I take advantage of his effort and I sit back with him. I want him to get me to the Three Sisters feature of the course, and then whatever happens there, happens there. And that's coming up in less than half a mile. And look at this guy on the left, he's jamming too. I mean, everyone's really going for it. And that's really cool, it's fun to be in a race setting. I've missed that. All right, here we go. I'm getting into the flow. So I want to pace this race in a way that gets me around the course as fast as possible without having to put out any major surge efforts that fatigue me, so I can't sprint at the end or put out an effort at the end or something like that. So we get over the first of the Three Sisters, and it's not bad. It's a pretty short climb. I had ridden it the night before, so I did know what I was coming up to. The second sister is a little bit harder. I sort of get sucked into this idea that I need to stay on this guy's wheel. I mean, look at, he is rocking back and forth. He is putting out some pretty good power here. I'm trying to tell myself not to chase that. There's really no reason for me to do that. We got the photographer there on the left, and we got some spectators. There were spectators all over this course, which is really, really nice. It's just cool to have people cheer you on. That's a lot of fun. We get a short descent, and there actually is a flat portion before the third sister, but it's not very long. So I wanted to carry momentum into this third sister. I'm still hanging out with this dude that I was with earlier, and again, he is jamming up this hill. Now, I've decided I have to sit down for this hill. It's too long for me to stand and crank out power. I'll end up putting out too much power and get too tired by the top. So I sit 90 cadence, around 300 watts, and that's pretty much what I've been practicing in training, is just putting out this steady, decent power. And I end up having to do this for a while. It's a pretty decent length of a hill. I want to keep some footage in here where maybe I'm not narrating it, because the Three Sisters, Sager Road, and the finish, they're all important, notable points of the course that I think it's important to have in the video. So we get to the top of the climb, and I'm still on my cadence, I'm still on my power, and that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to get over this hardest climb from start to finish at pretty much the same pace. So we find ourselves in behind this group. Now this group had just passed me, and I thought that they were probably from wave 6, probably the front of wave 6. And I thought maybe the fun was over for the day, and that this was going to be the group that I tried to cling on to and just hold on to get the fastest time. That's not really how it ends up playing out. I ride with them for a little while, and we pick up the pace, and we're doing 23, 24 miles an hour on the flats, and that's great. But we end up getting split up just from some of the rolling hills and the terrain. I always find myself up with this guy here. He's in a J-Tree team kit, and he's a pretty good rider, so I tried to stick around with him where I could. He takes good lines, he's got about the same power output as I do, so I hung out with him and found myself next to him for a big portion of this race. And even though him and I were working in tandem quite well, people kept flying by us. I mean, look at this group here. They are cruising. I mean, it's pretty obvious they're putting out power to do so, but it's not like we're sitting still or not trying. We're cranking out power as well. So I was really impressed to see some of these later waves have these groups of super strong riders. And look at these guys on the left here. They're going downhill now, but they're flying by us at a pretty good clip. And this group is huge. For a while, I really contemplated getting in this group with these guys, and I thought maybe that would be kind of where I end up. But again, I didn't want to be in that huge group flying through some of these dirt roads, especially because Sager Road's coming up soon, or at least in about 5 miles, and I don't know what that includes, but I know going into it with a big group might not be the best idea. So here me and the J-Tree guy are passing some people. This is the Gun Lake climb. It's a nice paved climb, and we put down, again, the same power, but we're actually getting to get around some guys here. A nice paved downhill is always fun. 0 watts, 37 miles an hour. Here we find ourselves turning onto Sager, and the first victim has already hit the dirt. It looks like he just came in a little too hot, which I was going to do as well, but the guy in the gray shirt, or the gray kit just up ahead, had actually warned me that we were going to be turning onto Sager soon, which was a huge help. So putting out some big watts at some low speeds. That's because we're on this really chunky, rocky, sandy hill, and I knew some things about Sager from YouTube, but the conditions could be different on every given day, or on any given day rather, especially because it's been so dry leading up to this race. A lot of people were concerned that the sand was going to be really, really squishy, and it's actually, for the most part, it's actually not that bad from what I can tell. I'm feeling pretty confident that we got up that first hill okay, and the sand that we are on right now isn't too bad. I mean, the side of this road is totally rideable. The middle looks a little questionable, but we're still going to see guys get through it, like this guy on the left. He didn't seem to have too much problem. Oh, here's the first issue. Dodged it, no big deal. I really considered the idea that I could ride this whole stretch of road without getting off my bike. I did. It was naive, but I thought it. And I do want to point out here, my heart rate is 192 beats per minute, and we're not going that fast. It's just a mix of the adrenaline and the power output to get through some of the squishier sections. It's a lot of work. Here's another good sand section, which doesn't look that intimidating, but I'm having trouble. This guy's getting a little bit soft in front of us. The bike forces me into the middle of this portion of road. I try to get back to this section that looks a little bit more sturdy, and my wheel just slips out. And I, too, become a walker. Back on the bike, and my friend that alerted me to the start of Saga Road is still here with me. He's just ahead of me. And we're getting up this is actually steeper than it looks. A giant boulder right there in front of us. In fact, at this point right here, as I'm pedaling, my tire is trying to come off the ground as I put down power. Just to give you an idea of sort of what I was experiencing there. So now that we're on top of this hill in Saga Road, this sand is actually pretty well compacted. There's a harder ground beneath it. But again, as soon as we get down into a valley, that sand is much softer. The thing that also complicates traversing Saga Road the most is that there's other riders around, so you're always trying to be conscious of where you are in relation to them, because they're as much a factor as the terrain beneath you. That guy, he kind of jumped in front of me a little bit, but I totally get it, right? Like, there's a line, and you just got to get in the line. The people here were forcing us, well, yelling at us to keep going, don't stop pedaling, which really motivated me, but at this point, I had nowhere to go. There were just too many people around. So I had to walk again for a second time. Alright, Saga Road's over, and we're blasting down this hill, and it just feels good to go fast again. A left turn sign on the right hand side there that I only glimpsed. So as we came over this hill and we realized we were turning, myself and a guy to my left, who is not in the picture, we are having trouble getting slowed down for this, and he's yelling that he is not going to be able to stop, so I'm giving him lots of room because I don't want us to go down because we get ran into by each other. He points out that his tires are the issue, and we carry on. Which this brings us to the wall. The wall is another notable feature of this course. It's a really steep section of dirt road, and it might be my favorite part of the course. This allowed me to test out my training again. I sit at the 90 RPM cadence, around 300 watts, and this takes me up the climb at a pretty decent speed. You can see some people are walking. That's because this thing is steep. It is not, it's not a very friendly hill, but conditions were great. If it were muddy, that would have been an issue. If it had been rutted out or washed out, that would have been a problem. But you can see it's flat, it's dry, it's solid. So, I mean, I really like this climb a lot. And that's not all that there is to enjoy about this particular section of the course. As you get to the midsection of this hill, it flattens out a bit, and there's actually a band there playing, and I'll let you hear exactly what they're doing. So hearing them play the music totally revitalized me, and I've got a second wind, and I've also got some new thoughts, like, did they really play all day? And did I just get lucky to hear them playing at the time? Because they have to take breaks, right? Like, they need, like, drinks of water or, you know, time to breathe. Anyways, we get to the top of the wall, and I feel really accomplished because I know that after that, there's no other hills. It's just the finish that I gotta prepare for. So here's a group. Now, this is what I wanted for the end of the race. I know that they're not from the same wave as me, and they're probably all from waves behind me, which means that they put out more effort, more work, whatever. I wanted to race somebody to the finish line. There's a couple of riders in here that I'd been riding with up to this point. Periodically, we would sort of be in a group, sort of not. But now we're here with 10 people, and then myself kind of dangling off the back. So there's no one behind me. I'm sitting here sort of just thinking of what I want to do for the finish of this race. I got a couple options. First, I could just sit in back here and hope that I can end up out sprinting these guys at the line, but the finish is actually, there's a straightaway, then a left-hand turn, and then that's the finish. So the chance of me actually having an open route to sprint with the Spinny riders is not great. So option number 2 is sort of similar to what I did at the cow pie, is jump out, try to send a flyer on my own and see if it sticks to the line. I knew we were within 1 mile to go before the finish, but I didn't know where I was specifically at this point, so I winded up thinking I'm close enough to get all the way home. The pace is slowing down a bit as well. You can see a lot of guys are coasting, so I come by them with some speed, but not so much that I don't believe I can hold it. So I settle in again just above 300 watts. I'm in a really aero position. My heart rate is at 196 beats per minute, which my maximum heart rate is 197. And just after I got past that rider on the right hand side, I thought, oh no, I've made a mistake. I am going to blow up. I'm holding 196 beats per minute, over 300 watts. There's no way I can sustain this. And I actually move over because I expect the whole train to come by me and chuckle as they see me defeated. However, I'm still holding 300 watts, and when I look back, I can see a couple of guys, but I don't know how many people are there. So I finally have to let them come by me on the left-hand side. But I actually thought during the race my power dropped. It doesn't, it picks up a bit. And only 3 guys were able to come with me on my little flyer attempt here, which was actually sort of rewarding in itself. So I thought, okay, this is less people that I have to sprint. But the finish is right there, and I want to get around this guy. He didn't even pedal through the corner, and somehow he's still carrying more speed than I am. So we end up getting to the line. We stay in 4th place out of our little group, but it was a lot of fun to put in that effort. And instead of finishing in 11th out of the group, I get to finish a little bit further up out of our little makeshift race finish. So that was a great time, a lot of fun, and one of my favorite courses I've ridden this year. You can kind of see the people here at the end, how many people there are just around. These people have already finished, and I started in wave 5, so imagine after many more waves. So we're getting a burger post-race. I had to leave quickly from the race because I've got a 4-hour drive, and it's going to rain the rest of the weekend, so I'd like to mow the lawn. We'll see if I beat the rain or not. All of the new parts that I installed on the bike worked out really well, from the chain ring to the front derailleur that I had to scalp off my road bike. So positives all around. However, I finished 18th out of 51 in my age category, and overall I was like 300th. If I want to be faster, I need to ride more. So looking forward into potentially next season, I've just got to try harder if I want better results.